another area that I'll just bring up as we approach year end. So QCDs are great because there's a 12/31 deadline. But just traditional charitable contributions, you could set up something like a donor advised fund, or if you already have one set up, you could contribute to the donor advised fund. But any type of charitable bequest needs to be done by 12/31. Those cutoffs don't act like an IRA contribution that you have until tax time the following year. So 12/31, if you're charitably inclined, is a relatively important deadline if you want to get that type of bequest made.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing you see at year round is a lot of gifting going on. And, we're very much, from our standpoint, we encourage clients to make gifts. I don't know how many times I've told clients, your kids are going to get the money anyway. Why don't you make a gift and at least see them benefit while you're still alive? Mm-hmm. There's some misconception about gifting and gift tax and how that all works. Just for 2024, the maximum amount each individual can give to another individual without any, gift tax ramifications is $18,000. A couple, if you're married and have a child, each person could give $18,000, so that's $36,000. The big misconception is what happens if I give more than that, and people are concerned about what would happen. Really, your estate tax exemption, that 13.6 number that's going to 14 million next year, when you make a gift of over the gift limit, that $18,000 number, it just eats away at that. So if you wanted to give your child, $100,000 or something of that magnitude, you have to file a gift tax return, a Form 709, but no one's going to owe any tax until you give away the estate tax limit, which would be $14 million. So there is, we encourage people, especially with, children and, while they're kind of in those years that you can really make a difference. Some of us may live very, very long time, and our children may not inherit money until they're in their 70s. So little things we can do to help out our children, gifting, have discussions with your advisors about, gifting, because it's not really an estate tax issue anymore. And there's a misconception where if I make a gift of over $18,000, is that going to cause some type of tax? The short answer is no, and you can do that.
Yeah, and you brought up the example of kids or children, mm-hmm. but you can gift $18,000 to anyone. So if you're feeling charitably inclined, Robert, I would be willing to accept your $18,000.
Yeah, Dan, and if you wanted to go outside U of M Stadium with your checkbook as people walk in,
but
you could do that. I think that might be a good thing for you to do. It'd make you feel good.
But in all seriousness, you can. I mean, right? It's not. This is not just for children. This is across the board. So if any individual, I mean, again, I'm using kind of a ridiculous example, but you could gift your neighbors or your friends or grandchildren. It doesn't matter, right?
Absolutely.
Any individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, when you're married and have children, each spouse can make a gift, so you can move a lot of money. It especially becomes that much more important if the household is in that net worth circumstance where they eventually likely will have an estate tax problem. Yeah. Then gifting is not only just to help your kids, but it also is going to help eliminate the government from taking 40% of the amounts that you're gifting.
And just to clarify, that again needs to be done by year end. That's a 12/31 deadline.
Yes. So. Yeah. And you get that exemption amount each year for making gifts.
Has that $18 million individual limit, has that changed?
18,000.
I'm sorry, 18,000 limit. Has that changed over the last 5 years? Is there expectations for that to change at all?
It will go up next year. In 2025, it goes up to 19. For the longest time, I don't think it was indexed. So it used to be 10,000. Everybody talked about 10,000. You can give $10,000, but that has been now indexed for inflation. And for 2025, not only is the estate tax limit going to 13,999 or 14, as I like to say, the gift tax amount is going to 19,000 per person.
Okay,
yeah, that's a great technique.
Any other, I guess, top of mind items, whether it's implications from administration on markets, estate planning, year-end taxation situations, anything else we want to bring to light before we wrap up here?
I think that covered some major talking points. The year end is always a time to sit down with your financial advisor and not only look back at the progress you've made, but making sure that you're checking the boxes for all these housekeeping items. And so people will ask me, Dan, do you get busy at any point in time throughout the course of the year? And our business is relatively consistent. We're always busy, but year end and tax time end up being just slightly more critical because of the deadlines that kind of fall in those two categories. So it's a great time to sit down with your financial advisor, whether you're a client of Blue Chip or elsewhere. Just year end is an important time to make sure you're checking those boxes.
Yeah. And kind of like one closing thing too is because markets have performed so well over the last few years, I think almost all of our clients and most investors, as they look at their statements, they have more money than they ever thought that they would have.
Right.
And so as you look at, where you're at and what you need going forward, kind of expanding your view of whether, you're making, helping out children, helping out family members, maybe getting more charitably inclined. I think it's just, a lot of people have just commented, I just never thought I would get to this number, 5 million, 10 million, or 2 million, whatever the number is, because markets have performed so well. And it's kind of, sometimes it's a good time of year to recalibrate and consider. It's like, is there other things I should be doing or other people I should be considering, while I'm still here?
And from the estate planning side, so as the clients are coming to see you, the financial advisors, and you're starting these conversations, year end, maybe they just do an inventory. Well, what's changed in my family situation? Has a new child or grandchild been born? Has there been any divorces? And maybe we need to make sure that the estate planning now is still in a good shape, or if we need to go ahead and make some revisions.
And Kim, just in general, this might be too general, but let's see if you can answer from how often should someone be updating or revising an estate plan? Is there a rule of thumb if every 7 years because of changes in legislation, or just can you maybe comment on how often someone should be looking at potentially updating their financial plan? I'm sorry, estate plan.
Sure. I think that everyone needs to actually take a really good hard look at it every 3 years.
3 years.
And see what's changed. But generally across the board, when I see my clients really need to revamp, it's every 10 years where they actually need a whole complete restatement of their trust.
Okay, so there might be some tweaks along the way that can be made where it doesn't require an entire new document, but...
And that's kind of assuming that, no life events. All of a sudden you lose a spouse, and, there's a lot of things that happen, that a child may get divorced, that you may have made some provisions. So there's always these life events are going to step in front and speed that up. But just to constantly review, one thing that we oftentimes see is people go in and they get their estate plan done, and they really don't know when their kids are going to get their money. They don't know. They're not confident who the trustees and the personal representatives are. It's something that they don't think about regularly, and then they go in there. So reviewing every 3 years is important, and from there, that would be helpful.
Yeah, and maybe one last mistake, and I know this isn't a discussion about estate planning mistakes, but I'll throw this out there, sitting in the seat of the financial planner, is clients that do, or individuals that do get an estate plan done, often or at times can miss funding the trust properly. So that's when sitting down with your financial advisor and making sure that your accounts are registered properly and beneficiaries are properly stated. Funding of the trust is the second step that is required. And so just having an estate plan done is step one, but making sure that your trusts are funded properly is really step two.
Absolutely.
I think we covered it all.